Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Good Flight Podcast. We're here to kind of pull out some of the cool stories, the exciting behind-the-scenes moments of what it takes to use drones and other filmmaking tools like helicopters and stuff like that, and make those good flights, those good stories, those moments that are worth telling people about. And so tonight, I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful co-host, John Graham.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Good Flight Podcast. We are rolling. Season 3 is well on our way here. And today's show is a little bit different. It's like we were trying to think outside the box a little bit, what can we do differently? And we didn't have to look very far because I think one of the cool things about the drone space is it attracts a lot of innovative thinkers, a lot of innovative thought. And the technology, right? The technology has such an ability to impress people, to have a wow factor, and to do different things in different spaces. And tonight, guys, we have an amazing story about drone light shows. So a little bit different than the usual stuff about piloting drones. These drones are piloted in a different way, computers and stuff. So with us is co-founder Tony Samaritano from Verge Aero, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
Yeah. There we go. It's great to be here, guys.
Tony. Wow,
that
was great.
Yeah, Tony, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. When I thought of something, how to get outside the box a little bit, you were honestly the first person that came to mind. So appreciate it. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Happy to be here. Been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So,
is it correct that you guys have worked together a little bit already now?
Yeah. So, So we worked together on a show that we did for healthcare workers back in April at the beginning of the pandemic. John was a pilot in the air filming the drones. I think we had 130 up that time.
Yeah, and shout out to Nick Lang. He brought us on. Mm-hmm. He was the one that produced the whole thing and shot and edited it. And Nick still hits me up about how well that video has been received. I guess, just people keep watching it, and it is an amazing sight. So to see these drones flying around, but I guess the way we captured it too didn't hurt at all, So yeah, that was when we first met, and I walked through the doors of the stadium at University of Pennsylvania, and I see, 100 drones for that show?
I think we did 136. Yeah, that was it. 136 for that show.
Paul, 136 drones are just like laid out in the football field like a grid. And I got a bunch of people plugging in, testing lipo cell, checking batteries on these drones and just making sure everything's working. These are my people, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it felt really good to get to know everybody a little bit and to help support that show and it was a huge success.
I can't imagine what the energy is like as you're about to launch a show. At that point, because like you're saying, like I was trying to think about like the logistics of doing a light show, and I'm sure I have an extremely myopic view of what that would look like, but like I'm just thinking about like if there's 136 drones, like I maybe have 20, which I think is a lot of drones here.
You definitely
I have to have a battery for every single one. I have to make sure that everything is going to behave and follow the flight path that's set up. I've got to have enough people to get it done in a timely fashion. Like, what can you give us a taste of some of the logistics that go into running a drone light show? And I mean, we need to go back into your history with that and all this stuff, but like, I mean, just out the gate, 136 drones in the air. Like, how do you even do that?
Well, I mean, you guys know well enough how like every single drone, it's always a lot of work for a single drone, right? So like it truly is like it's like multiplying that. But we've got it down. We've gotten the process down well enough at this point where every single drone is pretty much identical, and we have a ton of safety checks that are all automated at this point. So when you walked into the stadium and you saw 136 drones, we power them on and they tell us if anything's wrong. So really the only thing that we need to do as operators is just do the stuff that you can't automate. So like check the props, make sure there's no cracks in the props, make sure the batteries are all the way connected in. We're still using XT60s, which we want to move away from, but like, yeah, make sure just all the physical connections are good. And then the drones really do the rest. Like the software behind the scenes is doing a lot of work to make sure like the sensors are good, they're calibrated. They'll tell you, like, for example, if they have bad GPS, they'll give us that information. And what we do is we have 136 drones on the launch pad, but I think for that show, we brought like around 150. So we essentially have sideline drones. You can think of it like a big team. And whenever one
Waterboy.
Yeah. Whenever one is behaving poorly, we just take one and we swap it in its place, pull the other one out. And at the end of the day, you have a fully healthy launch pad ready to go.
Yeah. And I guess you guys tell me a little bit about what you're actually making. So you're not just creating the hardware, the drones, right? You're developing the whole ecosystem behind your service. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So we are 100% vertically integrated, like from the processors that we pick to actually run the software on the drones all the way up to the design studio itself. So like what differentiates us from others doing the same stuff is everybody else is using an animation software like Blender or whatever. So like you animate the individual flight paths, but we've kind of flipped that on its head and built our own software suite around designing the shows. So like, for example, if we want to put up an American flag, we describe how the flag is supposed to work in like splines and images. And then our software renders all of that stuff to flight paths. And it does it like you can design and fly like a 200 drone light show. You could design it in like a half hour and go fly it outside. Just upload and fly it. Whereas
That's
like
scary.
everybody else pretty much has to individually animate. How does this point move? How does that point move? And then you can think of how much of a nightmare that is if you need to deconflict paths so they don't run into each other. But
That's where I was headed with that. So like your software, not only do you design the pattern, but you design the flight path for each individual drone automatically through, I assume, some sort of artificial intelligence kind of thing happening in the background to make sure that they're not going to just hit each other on their way from A to B as they're changing patterns in the air.
Exactly.
How long have you been working on that software? Because I feel like that's not a small task. I mean,
no. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. No, we've been working on that software since 2015 or 16, and it's gone through a bunch of revisions, but I would say since 2018, we've been using it regularly for shows. So yeah, it's literally impossible for that piece of software to design a show where two drones ever pass over each other or collide into each other. And that's like one of the biggest differentiators for us, and why we're able to like put together shows in record time and just go fly them, and they work every single time.
Does that incorporate some level of like error for GPS or barometer or, because there's a bunch of sensors on each of these drones that have the potential for some amount of error.
For sure.
So you have some sort of like, and this is probably way too in the weeds, but this is where my mind goes with it. Like, does it anticipates a certain level of error for each of those sensors and designs the flight path around that?
Exactly. Yeah. So like each node, each drone that's ends up being rendered out essentially has like a force field. It has like a bubble around it. And as the rendering is happening, the software enforces that those bubbles will never cross. Gotcha. And like right now we're using like essentially like a meter bubble around the drone.
Okay.
So that means that the drones, whenever they're flying, any two drones are never closer than about 2 meters away from each other. But that's a dynamic thing that we can tune. So like as the drones get smaller and more accurate, as we continue to refine the technology, we'll be able to bring that threshold down and make the formations even tighter.
It's like you can enhance the resolution a little bit of your show, right? With that, more drones in a more compact space, and essentially that's what you guys are. You guys are just flying pixels, right? That's like the illusion we want to create. Pixels.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the purpose of being vertically integrated too. Like you said at the beginning, is that you now are in control of the final ecosystem of taking that 2 meter bubble, or I guess 1 meter bubble, 2 meters of distance down as much as you choose is worth risk at that point,
Yeah.
to make sure that everything is going to operate. So you're the master of your own destiny on how resolute your images can be, your displays shows can be.
Yeah.
Is that what
What's the
exactly.
right terminology here? Like,
is that what
Actually, I don't think
vertically
there is
is that what vertically integrated means? I was wondering what that meant. It sounded really, really fancy. And I know Paul's like software background, but is that what that means?
You're in control from end to end.
Okay.
Yeah, from end to end. Yeah, so like every single aspect of the entire system we control, which is it's a lot of work. But we took that approach because we believe that the end result is just significantly better. When you can tune every single aspect from the design, like defining those bubbles, all the way down to like the drone, like the safe speeds that it can fly, and how the paths are generated, and how those turn into velocities that the computer eventually controls.
That's great. I want to kind of take it back to maybe the early days of where you guys got started, and was it always that kind of that mindset that of that control, or did you buy drones off the shelf at one point and had failures to how did you guys start the business, and what were some of those challenges along the way?
Yeah, so when we started the company, we actually were working on an automation product with drones, but we were like a Navy subcontractor. So it was actually a really, really cool project. So we really started to refine the ability to just essentially write programs that fully automate the drone system, so you don't need a controller. And then this was like 2015, 2016. And we wanted to kind of take what we were developing, what we were learning, and turn it into a commercial product. We actually didn't even think, we always were aiming at entertainment, but it actually started as more of like advertising, like flying banners and things like that, right? With like 5 or 10 drones.
And if you don't mind if I jump in really quick, for listeners that may not be thinking about this world, especially when you said the Navy, so like dealing with the United States military or the United States government, everything has to be, what is it called? The blue, like something that where everything has to be domestic. So like all of your hardware now, you're even probably down to your motors, your flight controllers, has to be designed and manufactured in-house in the United States, along with the software, so that you can control and make sure that there's no information being sent to like foreign governments. So like there's now, that's another reason to be vertically integrated, to have all of that control, because now you can take that and bring it to United States Navy, or potentially a presidential inauguration or something like that. It's very, so you from the very beginning, and I'm really impressed by that, and really impressed by that foresight to say, we're going to control all of this. We're going to know how to do all of this ourselves, so that in the long term, we are set up to be in control of who we can and can't work with. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was definitely one of the goals and one of the reasons why we did it. Another reason was honestly because like the tech just didn't exist. And you think like 2016, Intel just started to do drones as like a light show platform. And they're the only people doing it. And like we had started to develop the technology, but like I said, we were thinking about like 10, 20, 25 drones flying simultaneously, which was a leap at the time. And then Intel comes out and they flew 100 drones. And that's when we're like, okay, we need to take a step back and actually take what we've learned in this revision that'll allow like 25 drones to fly at the same time. But we have to be able to essentially infinitely scale that system up. So it doesn't matter how many agents are on the system. They'll just fly in unison as a single group. So yeah, that was like 2016 that we did that. And then 2017 through 18, we developed the core tech. And actually, we started to deploy it, and we started to deploy it in Dubai. That was our first market, which was cool.
How'd that come about, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so our CEO, Nils Storgerson, he's great. He's founded and sold multiple companies in the past, so just a serial entrepreneur. And Nils found us, me and like the technical co-founding team. And he had the idea, he really wanted to try and make this new type of lighting technology, try to push that out into the market, but he needed a team. So we met up, and that was our first funding round, was finding the right people, getting Nils on board to lead the company, from a business perspective, while myself, my two other technical co-founders, Anthony and Chris, we worked on the tech to get it to work. So Nils was actually able to leverage some past partnerships that he had, and he had a company out in Dubai that he had worked with in the past. They were interested in it, and they were our first customer, and awesome. They're still flying the same system today. They just did a gig for Adidas last week. It was that was pretty cool.
Okay, so not only you're going out there to do the show, but then you're also providing them with the drones to continue to do the light show service, right? So that's exactly. Pretty amazing. So is that still the goal of Verge Aero today, or are you guys primarily doing the service yourself?
We always saw the service as a necessary evil, but like at the end of the day, we don't want to be the people doing the service. We don't want to compete against our customers, essentially. But it's still, even now, it's still early days. So it's good for revenue generation for us. It also helps us like be hands-on and learn if there's any faults in the system. And by like going out and doing shows, we can make the product better for not only us, but all of our clients who also own systems.
So you're saying that if I had some amount of money sitting in my pocket, I just like, you know what? I want a drone light show company. I can just, find a couple people to help me plug in drones and then buy from Verge Aero a collection of drones and a system that runs them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's also the long-term goal. Yeah, it's really
how
cool.
much money you got, Paul? I'm into this right now. I would love to do that for like for weddings. Firework,
oh my god! Yes,
I assume this is like the pricing structure is
Paul. What kind of show can we put on with like 3 or 4 drones? I mean, we could do. I mean, how many could we afford?
Yeah, I mean, I've got drones? A couple of Mavics, a couple of Inspires. We can do a show. We don't need.
Yeah, you don't need that. Yeah.
I think you need at least like 50 drones to be impressive, right, Tony? Is there a number that you guys have determined where like this is your starter kit?
And that leads me to a question. I want to ask, like, what is a light show? What is a drone light show?
Yeah.
Like, so like if I wasn't interested in it, I'm like, I like fireworks. Fireworks are sick. Why do I want a drone light show? Sell me. Like that's what I'm playing the devil's advocate. I get it. But like sell it to me. Like why do I want to choose a drone light show over something else?
Yeah, well, I think the best I've been able to distill it is if you want not only high-tech fireworks, which they are, so like they don't blow themselves up, you can continue using them. That means that you don't have to keep buying fireworks over and over and over again, right? Sure. But you're combining that with like the excitement of like a Blue Angels display, because you have really fine control of exactly what the drones are doing when they're in the air. It's not just a big explosion and it rains down, and that gets old. There's only so many effects that you can do with fireworks before people start to get bored and like want to see the grand finale.
That's why you got to increase the danger with the fireworks, right? The more, then you get more dangerous, and you start aiming them at your buddies. That's how you get. That's how you keep it exciting.
Yeah,
I do that with drones too.
Yeah, I think the best thing about drones, and I mean, John, you saw this firsthand. It's like with drone light shows, you can tell a story. You can paint pictures, you can display words, and I think the impact is significantly greater than you can get with just fireworks. And that's not to just totally shit on fireworks, because obviously, like, I think when you mix both fireworks and drones at the same time, you get it's totally next level. It just swarms of drones. You can tell a complex story, and I think the thing that we did for the medical workers for COVID really showed that. Like the people on the ground, when we flew those drones, there was so many people just in tears, because we were able to show them that we were thankful, other than just blowing up explosives in the air. So they got to see, they got to take part in the storytelling. Sure. And I think that's something powerful that you can't really get with purely fireworks alone.
It's a pretty amazing sight, man. It doesn't look real. You're looking at it and you think you're seeing some type of like UFO phenomenon happening at first, especially if you're just like a bystander at this.
Yeah.
So think about it, like for thousands of years, humans were if you see a light in the sky, it's either like the sun, the star, or a moon. And now we have these lights in the sky that can float around, seemingly silent, paint these pictures that are like speaking to us directly.
Yeah,
that's pretty trippy, man. And here we are thinking about buying a business, flying drones. Paul, I'm still down for this. Let's talk later offline.
All right. Yep. Sounds good. We'll pull some funds.
Winston, you're in too.
Yeah. Your salary goes to drones this next year, Winston. What so thinking about like telling the story and bringing things together and can you start to like go into, and maybe this is already happening or isn't happening, can you go into something that's like dynamic almost like, so like let's say you're doing a show for the Super Bowl, and it's happening not just during this is pure speculation, I have no idea. It's not just happening at halftime, but it's happening like during the first quarter, and you can now like display a tweet or something like during the show, so that like everybody that's in the stadium can now see like, oh, and now Johnny Drones says go Kansas City. Like what is that something that you see in the possibility of the future in terms of like telling a story in real time?
Oh yeah. No, 100%.
Or is that happening already and I just don't know about it?
Well, yeah, so everything that we do now is like essentially you can think of it like pre-baked, right? So like we upload the show and we press go and it all is just happening. Sure. But the way that we design the system from scratch is to allow for things like that. So that's like awesome. Right now we don't, although there's nothing technically stopping us from doing it, we're not doing it, but all of the back end exists. So while the drones are flying, you could have them do different formations. And I definitely see a future for that. Yeah.
Or could it even be, is there a possibility for, like, let's say you have a fleet of 300 drones and you have a 100 drone light show happening.
Yeah.
And as each drone gets low on battery, a next set goes into position seamlessly and takes over, and they just cycle. So you can have an indefinite. That's so cool. Like, and that's a possibility because you're vertically integrated, because you've planned for that from the beginning.
You just want to buy 3 times as many drones, dude.
I'm down.
That is so cool. I love it.
I mean, so that begs the question. I mean, what are the biggest challenges we have right now? And flight times has got to be one of them. What are you guys dealing with every day? What are the biggest factors there?
The biggest factors right now, and this actually goes back to like why didn't you see this more often? And it is because it's really expensive. And it's expensive because mostly, one, the show design and planning all of that. I think with all of our competitors, it takes weeks and weeks of dedicated time. That means you're paying animators like, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to put together these complex shapes. What we're trying to do is address each point and trying to bring the price down from, like flying 100 drones and that costing like 50, 60, 70 grand or something to the end client. But bringing that down to a price point where somebody with 100 drones can roll up to a wedding and fly for like $10,000 or something like that. And then you start to get in the price range of what a smaller scale fireworks type display would be. And I think once we do eliminate some of these barriers, then you'll start to see them more often. And I think the biggest price drivers right now are really the logistics around setting the drones up, making sure they're healthy and flying, along with the design process itself. So we're trying to attack, and because we're vertically integrated, we can attack from both sides. That technical problem. And right now, like we can throw shows together really quickly and really cheaply. So our next big step is to bring the cost of the drone down and increase the flight times. So like, I think the next generation of drone light shows, like right now, our X1 drone, it'll hover for like 20 something, like low 20 minute mark, but that means that our shows can't be more than like 15 minutes. So you have reserve. But I think at least our next generation, I think you're already seeing this with some of our competitors, we're gonna be pushing like 30-minute flight times. There's a lot more possibilities that come with that.
But flight times maybe aren't as important if you can have a dynamic attack, like where you have an extra number of but I guess that brings up the cost. And so, but I mean, at that point you're probably charging by the minute of a show at that point or something. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's cool because it's the same challenges that we kind of have flying drones for fun, flying drones for racing, or flying drones for cinema. We're kind of under the same constraints, right? Your drones have 4 motors, 4 propellers, 1 battery, a flight controller, ECU, the same technology that we're building in our basements. You guys have in your in your drones. What's the biggest difference? Like what's differentiating my mini quad back there from your copters?
The two biggest things are probably the RTK enabled GPS, which actually drives a lot of the cost of the physical hardware. The prices of RTK GPSs are coming down pretty rapidly. Yeah, that's a big cost driver. So like you can't just they're, you know, like minimum, even like when we buy hundreds of them in bulk, there's still multiple hundreds of dollars for those units, right?
Is it like a Here Plus or something like that?
Yeah. They're all based off the same U-Blocks GPS technology,
but
right?
Much more precision, much higher.
Yeah, exactly. Another big difference is just the networking. Like you think about it, like we have 100 drones. You know, we've flown up to 300 drones at the same time, and all of those drones need to be on the network, like reliably communicating, because if they're not, then you can't do the pre-flight checks and you can't send the GPS correction data and all of that stuff. So like our X1 drones are outfitted with like 3 different radios just to have the redundancy that we need and to be able to connect hundreds of drones to the same network at the same time. So there's a lot of development that went into that.
If I jump in just for a second, is that a mesh network, like where they're communicating from one to the other, or is it like a point where it's just kind of shooting up into the swarm, one set of commands, or maybe they're communicating back and forth through that one point? Or is that proprietary?
Well, I can tell you it's all of the above, right? So like for GPS correction data, that can just be a broadcast. So that's kind of just shoot it out there and they can all receive the same exact packet. They all know what to do with it. But for like when the drones are on the launch pad and we're doing pre-flight checks and stuff, that you have to individually talk to each one to get their individual status. And that type of a network can also be, it can be a mesh network. The drones can technically talk to each other, but they actually don't. Right now, there's actually no need for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Networking is intense. I mean,
dark.
It's
magic.
It is black magic.
I don't know enough about it. And I kind of, it's very, very deep, very, very intense, but seemingly there's still a lot of potential to discover with the technology and develop these technologies just in networking alone, right? I mean, how far advanced are we with the technology that you're using, and then what you either want to develop yourself or wish that was just out there to make your job easier?
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and like differentiate ourselves from our competitors, because most of our competitors are just using Wi-Fi, and like that's a networking based technology. All of our computers have it, and it has a lot of benefits. It has a lot of throughput. But one of the problems with Wi-Fi, especially like the current batch of technology, I think the new versions of Wi-Fi will be better at this, but you can only get so many nodes on a network at the same time. And then you're also in either 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz band, and it's really, really crowded. So what we did instead is we built our networking infrastructure completely from scratch. It's not based on Wi-Fi. And what that allowed us to do is, one, we're able to stay out of the really crowded bands that like all of our cell phones and all of our computers are on. And the other thing that it does is it's because the drones we're not sending a live feed of video down. So it doesn't take a lot of data. We're just sending like small packets. Mm-hmm. So the way that we structure our system is more like an Internet of Things. So you can think like smart lights or stuff like that, where you only have to turn something on or turn something off, and you send like very little data. But the benefit of that is like we could, with one antenna, we can address and talk to thousands of drones at the same time, whereas our competitors would have to have just an enormous network backend infrastructure just on the ground with Ethernet cables and routers and switches everywhere. Whereas we just have one box, one antenna, and you can talk to as many drones as you want. So that was actually one of the reasons why like our tech we've been working on since like 2016, this current version, and we're continuing to refine that networking technology. But there's a lot that goes into it. It is black magic.
It's networking is horrifying in any way, shape, or form. Looking at your technology stack and what's available out there versus your competitors, is keeping that stuff in-house, is that also helping to drive that cost down? and create more opportunities for shows in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like that's a really good point. Like our core mission as a company is not to continue to perpetuate drone light shows as this niche thing for, inaugurations and the Super Bowl, because like only right now like Joe Biden's campaign and the NFL can afford it. So
Right.
our mission as a company is to make this as affordable and cheap and safe, foremost, really the safety behind it. Like let's bring the cost down. Let's like actually make drone light shows kind of like a weekly thing. Like this shouldn't be something that people get to see only once in a while. It should be as available as like small scale firework type displays. And yeah, like you were saying, because it's vertically integrated, because we built our networking stack, like when you look at component cost and what it takes for us to put together our network, it's really cheap.
Right.
Yeah, but we had to do the hard work to actually make sure that network is like stable, robust, does the mission. And yeah. And we're pretty much there. So
are you at the point where you need special like FCC certifications to be able to operate in that maybe that's too into the weeds again, but like just thinking about like, there's only a certain set of radio communications frequencies that are allowed and available for anyone to just use. But if you're, like you're saying, I guess going off band a little bit to where you're not using 2.4, 5.8, 915, 868. So if you're going, so first of all, are you going off band to where you would need a specific FCC certificate to be able to use that?
No. Yeah, no. We're staying in we're in the ISM bands, but we just stay out of the crowded bands. Yeah.
But, and then when you head down towards the consumer level where like a company is buying that, do they need any kind of special certification, or is that a turnkey solution where they can just grab that, click, go? Yeah, I mean, obviously that's an oversimplification, but yeah.
Right, yeah, it's an oversimplification. No, I totally get where you're going. No, yeah, so like us as the manufacturer of the drone, we have to go to the FCC and prove that our radios are within compliance. But once we've proven to the FCC that they're in compliance, then yeah, the end user is just a working radio. And yeah, we're not buying a spectrum from the U.S. government. That's too small of a startup to be able to afford that. Yeah.
And sorry, John, I keep jumping back in, but
you're in love, man. I have like you're lighting up over there.
I'm excited about like all of the different kinds of things. So it's according to the FAA, without a waiver, you are only allowed to operate one drone at a given time.
That is true.
So first question is, how hard is it to get approval to operate multiple drones, or like what's the process look like there? Then the second part is, when you sell that turnkey solution to client B, C, D, E, are you helping them achieve the ability to do that? Or does your waiver somehow help them get there? Is that a reasonable question? Yeah.
No, that's totally a reasonable question. And I think like we've gone through the process twice now, and it's tedious for sure. They and understandably so, the FAA wants to see a lot of proof. So like when somebody comes to us and they want to buy a new system, then we've already learned what we need to learn. And because they are buying our system, we will provide them the support that they need to prove that their new Verge Aero system, which has been already cleared by the FAA previously, because we're one of the operators of them, we'll be able to walk them through. And I think that process, I think, is going to evolve over time, and it'll probably end up being like a really gated approach. So like, for example, gated. Yeah. So like somebody who wants to apply for that waiver, I think if they're going to buy drones that have already went through the process and have already been approved, like our X1 drones, it's going to be easier for them to do that. But I think with the FAA, like as new people come on board and want to use this technology, like they'll give them permission at first for like 25 or 50 drones, they'll give them a waiver in like a specific test area location, and they have to prove through demonstration that they understand the capabilities, they know how to do it safely. And then once they've proven that to the FAA, they can go through and increase the scope of that waiver. So like us, we can fly in any Class G airspace. So yeah, that's what I mean by like a gated approach. I think as new people start to adopt the technology, it'll start small and like test form small fleets, and then they'll be able to grow as they prove to the FAA that their organization can operate safely.
And even at the demonstration the show you put on at UPenn, there was an FAA representative there, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
So, I mean, good buddies. You become good buddies with these guys. We're all people at the end of the day, and they want to facilitate. They want to help you guys achieve success, right? How difficult is it to deal with them at some points, though, or is it kind of more pleasant than you would expect?
It's definitely more pleasant than you'd expect. Like all of the FAA, especially in the inspectors that we've talked to and have come to our shows, like, I mean, they want to nerd out on this stuff. They love to get their hands dirty, and I think when they see operators who fundamentally understand how the tech works, they just get excited, and then like you just build a rapport with them and some form of a trust, because you can obviously you're not just Joe Schmo out there who just bought like a Mavic 2 off the shelf and has no clue how to fly. Like, it's like no, these guys know what they're doing, and that's generally what pretty much every single person at the FAA that we've talked to is really excited to work with us. They want to understand the technology, they want to cover their bases, but they've all been pleasant, and I really enjoy when they come out, actually.
I think Tony and I might be on opposite ends of the FAA's buddy list.
I want to talk about Joe Schmo's average drone light show for a second, because I've seen one. I've been a part of filming, and let's call it a competitor. I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
I won't name names.
Yeah, no name.
I'm super curious now. I don't actually know.
Name and names, but we go and film a light show. It was like 100 drones, and they weren't so small, and they were kind of, right from the get-go. I show up, and I'm seeing what's going down, and there's like a cool RV like set up, and they got like lipo chargers everywhere getting around. Everyone gets a free T-shirt, and they got a bunch of, I don't know, PAs or something that have no idea like anything about drones, to even like they're showing them how to check a battery voltage, with a cell checker and stuff like that. So these people are plugging in these drones, and I'm filming it from the air, and sure enough, the wind kicks up, and it's like 20-mile-an-hour winds. But this show's got to go on because it's like for a commercial, right? For some brand. Yeah. And the drones take off, and it's windy, and they start colliding into each other and falling out of the air like projectiles. So they're coming. It was actually kind of hilarious, but also kind of dangerous. And you talked about safety. These things these drones are turning into projectiles, and with one broken prop, they're streaming off into one direction, going. One of them just kept going up, and then it hit like a safety net radius or something like that, and then it just dropped into the forest. And park rangers were there because it was at like a state park, and apparently they had to like find every one of those drones, and there's no way they're finding all those drones, because I think like they lost like half the fleet. So it was like devastating. But it was hilarious to watch, as like kind of, especially because I saw like Verge Aero's like massive, huge success and how smoothly everything went. And I was like, this is not going like that. And then like, so what is it? Average Joe's light show, Joe Schmo's light show. It's hard. It's harder than you think to do this. So
no. So what are minimum acceptable conditions?
So like our X1 drones are pretty beefy. They're like a little over 2 pounds. So we actually tested this. This actually sucked, but we were we were testing our drones in Dubai, and kind of like, all right, like there was a sandstorm, like, oh man, it was like 25-30 mile per hour winds gusting like 40 miles per hour in the middle of the desert in Dubai. And
when
like,
in Dubai, there's a sandstorm.
Yeah, I was picking the sand out of my eye for probably like the next 3 weeks after that. But so like that drone in particular, our X1, that thing it'll handle a lot of weather and a lot of wind. For our shows, we generally have a knock it off wind speed of 15, gusting 20. And it's I think it's important for safety. Like for that test, I think we had like 20 drones up in the air, but they were spaced out really well. But they were station keeping perfectly fine. I mean, they were like tilted like 30 degrees into the wind to compensate, but they were able to stay up, which I think was great. But yeah, no, like, and this goes to like Joe Schmo's light show. If you're like hand building these, like a whole swarm of drones,
they were all like old flame wheels, DJI flame wheels with like, it was a mess.
They have to be engineered right. It's just, that's the thing. And so like our drones, like they're all carbon fiber frames. It's all printed circuit boards. They're all conformally coated, like the circuit boards, so moisture doesn't affect them. But like if you're just taking a bunch of Pixhawks and wiring up ESCs on a flame wheel, you're not going to get the same result as something that's like manufactured for these difficult types of conditions. Yeah.
What I think our viewers would want to know, what prop size, KV, battery voltage.
That's all they care about, isn't it, Paul?
That's it. They're gonna ask us
what kind of GoPro settings.
What kind of GoPro settings?
Shout out to all of Nurk TV's awesome fans out there, and I guess great fans of the Good Flight podcast. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, the X1 is a 3-cell. It's somewhere around 1,000 kV and 9 by 4.5 inch slow flies, I believe. That gets us to like, I think it's like 21 or 22 minutes of hover before it does an auto land. Yeah,
that's like a 5 amp battery, 4 amp battery.
Yeah, 5. Yeah,
5.
A little bit over 5. Yep.
Cool.
4-cell. Did you already say that?
3.
No,
3. Okay, nice. Is like, of that electronics, what are you looking to upgrade like the soonest? If you could make an upgrade.
It's going 12S. They're going to go 0 to 100 miles an hour, but 99 miles an hour in less than a second.
Maybe it's 8 blade props.
Like yeah. No, man.
8 blade props, man. I just saw this guy. Yeah, this guy on the YouTube made this awesome video about putting 8 bladed props on a Go Fast drone.
They're quiet.
It's quiet. Yeah, well, that's huge. That could be really big if you're flying 100 drones. Imagine.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge that you have right now? Like in terms of like technology or legal, like if you could clear this one roadblock, it would be.
Well, I mean, if this industry wasn't regulated, that would probably be. Whoa. Yeah, if we could just fly anywhere we wanted.
Yes. You should have had this technology back in 2015. You would have been good.
Yeah, exactly. Done anything. No, for us, I think the most annoying part is honestly just like logistics of shipping. Like our X1 drones, they're beefy, and like you can, like, we have these big flight cases. They're actually like military grade like flight cases, and they're, like 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot, and each one of those can carry about 45 drones in a thing. But that means like you need a forklift and a truck to ship out 300 drones to a show. So one of the things that we're working on and we're trying to release by the end of this year is just a smaller, more compact, lighter weight drone that you can pack in higher density. And we'll attack a bunch of other different technologies like smart batteries and stuff like that in this revision before we make a revision to our current X1s.
Yeah, so like right now you're using like a zippy compact 3S, like that sort of, or is it better than that?
Yeah, it's better than that. Yeah, they're really good. They're really good cells, actually. They're like, like the best class of lipo cells that we can find, and the things perform so well. It's crazy. Like we've done shows in like 15-degree weather, and the capacity barely changes. Like you're still able to get the flight times that you would expect, even in like really cold temperatures, all the way up to we flew the same things in Saudi Arabia once, and like it was like September or October, and it was like 100 and something degrees, and like the batteries they just work. It's great.
Awesome.
What type of battery chargers are you guys?
I was going to ask that.
Just off the shelf, lipo chargers. Yeah, that's also another.
Well, if you decide to make another purchase of lipo chargers, like a big stack of them, let me get you an affiliate link.
Okay.
And,
okay. Get that FPV discount, the cash or whatever. What happened? Wait, sidebar. What happened to all the discount codes on all the FPV sites? They all get together. It was always a 10.
FPV sites don't have any margin in the first place. Like, they're maybe making 20%. And of that 20%, most of that is going back to the guy that ships it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no money in FPV. It's over. So we got to switch to drone light shows. Verge Aero, how we doing? What so out of all of the, so we've talked a lot about the frontline workers for COVID. In addition to that, like, what are some of the most personally for you impactful good flights that you've had, to where like you've seen an opportunity like this, whether that's you guys directly running the show or one of your clients, how have you seen this been used powerfully to help people, to help encourage, inspire, all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us, the biggest impact show was definitely the Biden one. And I think the reason why, it wasn't just because it was like high profile, it was actually because we saw what it looks like with the fireworks next to it. And like how that just took it to the next level. It was just so cool to have like this huge bang. And then like all of a sudden you get Biden or you get the American flag or whatever. It was just awesome. And that was cool.
So you did the inauguration with Joe Biden? President?
Yeah, well, it was his acceptance speech after the election. So yeah, that one was really cool. And then like I can think of a couple other ones where it was just, we did like, it was like 14 minute flight and we just packed as many effects as we can get in. So like I was talking about storytelling, there was this one show that we did where it was somebody's birthday, and we essentially told the story of her life in like 12 minutes with drones, like 140 drones flying, and it was just incredible. And like their response was just awesome. It was so like, I mean, for me, the biggest kick I get out of it is just like, because usually I'm behind the console, like I don't actually get to watch it, but either talking to the people after or just like watching YouTube videos of people like filming it and just the crowd's reaction, it's just killer. It's so cool to see that.
Yeah, and then you recently worked with my buddy Austin Smith at LA Drones. You guys did something with Bieber. Tell me about that show, Justin Bieber. Love the Bieber.
I mean, that was a really cool show. We flew off the parking garage, maybe like 100 feet away from Bieber. That was really cool.
What was it for?
Yeah, so he just wanted to. It was for he did a New Year's Eve like countdown, which he was late to. So he actually missed the East Coast countdown. That was funny.
Not a big deal.
Funniest part.
No big cities over here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the funniest part of that show was like the first part, it was a T-Mobile, like Justin Bieber and T-Mobile, right? So like for them, T-Mobile needed their logo, and Bieber really, really wanted his new album. I think it's called Holy. It had a lot of just like Christian symbols and stuff. So it had a cross and stuff. So the first like 4 minutes of that show were just Justin Bieber stuff, JB, T-Mobile, cool. The latter part of that show, which was another like 7 minutes of content that was like all New Year's Eve related stuff, like I want to say Austin came up to me maybe 15 minutes before the show, and his client's like, yeah, they don't want to do the rest of it. And I'm like, I can't re-upload. So what we ended up doing is we flew the Justin Bieber stuff, like flashed the T-Mobile logo, and then on my console, I turned the lights off on the drones. And the drones are flying in downtown Hollywood just in the dark, and like you can't see them. It was just bizarre because there was like 150 drones just flying in the darkness over this empty lot in Hollywood.
Quiet,
like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So every once in a while we would like turn the lights on real quick just to make sure those are all still there, and then turn them off. And it was really funny.
I like that you guys weren't sure. You're just like, are we sure?
Yeah, like it's 99.9% sure, but like it's good to just see.
Like, just check. That's how I feel. Like I have a newborn son right now, and I'm like, every once in a while I just go look, like, you still breathing there, bud? Like,
yeah,
like, you've been real quiet for a while. Like,
yeah. Let's just check this out. Yeah,
that's pretty good, but it's also kind of terrifying. Imagine,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, swarm drones. We can't end this conversation without talking a little about swarm drone technology. we've all seen the Black Mirror episode, or maybe maybe not everybody, but there was, there's this fear in a lot of people with swarm drones and military technologies and being used for weapons and stuff like that. What are your thoughts, Tony, on that?
Oh, I think it's really scary. One of the things like that we really focused on, especially like as a technology provider, was like so that you could use our design studio to design whatever you want, wherever you want. But the thing is, we control how the flight paths are generated. So like the way that we look at it is like in a worst case scenario, somebody got a hold of a Verge Aero fleet and they wanted to do something really bad with it. They literally cannot fly our drones until they send their, what we call our show file, the finished show file, up to our servers so we can check it. Mm-hmm. So like you have to put layers of security around it. But yeah, I mean, once you put like 100 agents in the sky and give them a target, it's really, really difficult to stop. So like on our side, we're trying our best. Yeah.
Well, and especially on non-conventional control systems too.
Exactly.
Like if if it is a DJI protocol or or the PixHawk protocol, whatever, Mavlink, thank you. Or I mean, even like microhard or something like that. Like you can sense and detect and know that that's happening. But if it's just like I don't know what your frequency is, and I'm not asking you to say it, but if it's just some 2.0 frequency and you're just like all of a sudden, we don't know what's going on. You can't, short of like bird shot, like you're done.
Even bird shot. I mean, that's a lot of birds in the air.
Exactly. Right, that's the problem. Yep. Yeah. So it's definitely a concern. To me, it's like the cross section between people who know how to build that technology and evil people in the world is very, very small. Yeah. So so I used to work at Boeing before we started this, and one of the big concerns with drone tech was like, what happens when one of these things flies into a commercial aircraft? And we're just talking about a single drone, like takes both engines out, and like internally we were like, oh my god, this is going to happen in like the next 2 years, like definitely going to happen. And this was like 2013. So everyone just, and we were like, that's going to shut the whole commercial drone industry down. And I think the point of me raising that is like, it's really, really hard to do. You have to be extremely competent to do that. And I just don't think that there are enough evil, competent people. I mean, it's bound to happen at some point, but you just as technology providers, you have to keep it out of the wrong hands. And like, we're trying to make this stuff easy to do, but like adding the layers of security necessary to make sure that it's not that easy to do something really harmful, I think is really important.
Yeah, this show isn't called like the bad flights or the scary flights or whatever. But I mean, this is a really fascinating subject to me. And it's often something I bring up when somebody sees one of the drones that I'm flying and they say, hey, that's a big drone. It's almost like there's like good and bad in the world. And like some people are like, that's a really cool drone. And there's like a small percentage of people, like the first thing they think of like, can I put a gun on it? It's like, like
more out here in Indiana.
Yeah. You're like, all right, man, like have a good one, talk to you later, but like the military is putting guns on these things and they're using swarm technology now. I saw this video that was fascinating. It was like, I don't know, it must have been maybe 10 years old. And it was a video from one F-16 filming another one just dropping out of the bomb door or something, like 100 of these micro drones, these swarm drones. And that was like at an altitude of, I don't know, maybe like 30,000 feet. And, they can all operate autonomously and act as like one entity. That's terrifying too. So it's not just, what if somebody bad gets a hold of the technology? I mean, this is already out there today, and our government is doing this.
I've got a follow-up question because I don't want to go any further down that path of it, but I do have a question about let's talk about like freedom of speech in the United States. Can you do whatever you want with a drone show as long as you're operating in Class G airspace. So like if you elections are hot right now, so I don't necessarily want to go that way. But like let's just say something's going on and you decided as a company or as a political opportunist to like put your show up in opposition of the person that's being elected or something like that, to where it's like they're doing their thing, all of a sudden boom, vote blah 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 or something like that. Like is there any restrictions against like could somebody do that? Is there any kind of restrictions against freedom of speech in airspace somehow? Like can anybody just I guess the other question would be like, can anyone just like fly a banner on a Cessna? I guess it's the same question essentially.
Paul wants to fly a dick butt from Reddit. Like just do that.
That would be pretty funny. Like
it would be. Yeah.
Or GME. Did you get any like GME to the moon stock guys that want to hire you to do this?
It's just like in the New York Bay. It just says stonks.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know the answer to that. Yeah, why not?
You can fly whatever you want. I don't think there's any like FCC regulations around flying drone swarms. It's like a question for some Supreme Court or some upper court
really quick afterwards. But
this is America, Paul. We can say whatever we want.
The only thing that's protected is obviously like the just the TFRs that get issued around if it was a political person.
Sure, and that's why I didn't want to say political, because I knew there would be some like if you were your dad runs a drone company and it's right next to your high school football game, like you just like, all right, here's our flex, and like all of a sudden like next to the stadium is just like the Cardinals suck or something like that. It's just
hilarious. Oh my god.
I think that could be within the near future. I mean
definitely.
Yeah, Tony, you talked about making a lighter drone. I mean that not only potentially means like more efficient and more accessible, but like more cost effective, right? Exactly. Or just a lower barrier to entry. I saw this technology I was just reminded of the other day. It was a Kickstarter. It was RGB or something like that. It was these small drones that were actually the airframe themselves were a circuit board, and all you had to do was like put motors on it or something like that. And they were selling it as some of these kits could be used as drone light shows. So with indoor sensors, even still, it was just really inspiring. Have you heard of that project or something like that?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. There's like the Crazy Fly. That's like another small little drone that you could put like LED attachments on and stuff too. Like at the end of the day, I mean, like we all build drones, right? So like it's not that bad to put a drone together. It's a little bit harder to make a competent drone that flies reliably.
A Catalyst.
Right. Yeah, but like to do the programming that you need to do a light show it's an extraordinary amount of work. So like when I see like little projects like that, I don't really see them as like a potential competitive thing that we need to worry about. They're just cool, and I like cool. I like just random cool things. So I like those projects, but I don't think we will be leveraging their technology for our types of light shows.
Can you scale your product into like a super small drone or like a super big drone or something like that, to where like suddenly like here you have an indoors show or something like that? I mean, I GPS is pretty heavily dependent, but like assuming that was
we've flown indoors, nothing for production. It's essentially like the only thing you need to replace is the GPS. So as long as you have a localization system, doesn't matter which one it is. You could fly indoors, and we've demonstrated it. It's really cool. It's really cool, actually. It's very scary though with the X1s. They're way too heavy. They shouldn't be flying indoors.
Well,
what other types of cool stuff can you fly on drones besides LEDs? Can you do lasers? Can you do fog machines? I wish I had my fog machine. Can you do other? What are you guys thinking?
Fireworks are really cool on drones, and we've experimented with that. And the problem is in the United States. What?
Is that illegal now, though?
It's illegal. Yeah, you can't do it in the US, but you can do it in like Dubai and stuff. Yeah. So it's like super easy to do, really. But fireworks are really cool, like doing the waterfall effects or just like essentially like flash grenades on them. It's so cool. And the cool thing about that is too, you could also carry an LED payload. So when it's not doing the firework effect, you can just use it as a normal drone light show drone. We have like also just, like spotlights, like moving lights and stuff like that. We've experimented with that stuff. It's really cool. Like that's a really cool effect. Lasers as well, but I don't think that that's going to ever really be a thing, at least in the outdoor space, because like you need a lot of atmosphere, and like unless if you just bank on a really foggy day, it's not going to look very cool. And then there's also the fact that like you have to put it on a 2-axis gimbal to make sure that it's not pointing at people's eyes, and that's really
a plane.
Yeah, or a plane. Yeah. So I see less of a use case for lasers, even though in theory it's really cool. But I think the best use case that's an alternative to lights is probably just different firework effects.
What about like glow in the dark goo dripping? I don't know.
Just radioactive goo dripping.
When you said waterfall, and I got stuck on like what if it was just like, you had like a big old sheet of like green radioactive, not radioactive, but like, I don't know. Anyway,
from the drone, you want these things to fly like buckets of glue up there and pour them out?
Sure.
It's like Nickelodeon slime.
Yeah, there we go. Kids' Choice Awards drone edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just carpet bomb a crowd with Nickelodeon slime.
We're getting into like the ultimate like whiteboard brainstorming session that I knew we would get into here, because it's like, all right, we understand like what Tony's got here. We understand what he's going. We have some cool stories. We're like, what else could we do to make a cool YouTube video next week?
Take it out of entertainment and put it into like agriculture or surveying or search and rescue or something like that, to where it's like now you can take this whole fleet of 130 drones and say, okay, somebody is lost and bleeding out from a jaguar attack in this 10 square mile radius. Go. And they all like scan the entire area in 4 minutes, and then the reserve drones go and dump like a care package or something to him. I don't know. Like, could you take it? Could you adapt that technology and bring it out of entertainment and into something like that? Or like think of like a 9/11 incident where, think about the amount of surface area that has to be covered. Could you then, just slowly move through that entire space and generate a map and decide where like, potential weak spots are where something would collapse or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely applications for that. I would say that they're less limited, or they're more limited. Like actually, I mean, when we started the company, we started thinking of entertainment as a jumping off point for using swarms in earnest and other types of areas. But yeah, like what we've found is whenever you like boil down the numbers, like, it's possible, but it's not going to be economically feasible for most cases. So like commercial ag, right? Like drone's biggest thing there is like, using a FLIR camera and finding hot spots and stuff. But you can do that with a fixed wing. And as long as the resolution is high enough, you're better off using just a single fixed wing. You don't have to do it quickly. Yeah. It's not time critical. I could say
human life isn't worth enough is what you're saying.
What?
I'm just kidding. Search and rescue. Absolutely. Search and rescue. Again, you have to find funding. Like, I would say
you still have to find funding.
Rescue is probably pretty underfunded compared to the entertainment industry.
Exactly. People love to be entertained, not to
so here's what we need to do. Use a drone light show to gather funding for the search and rescue industry and then sell into that. Boom.
There we go.
Sold. John, you in?
Yeah, whatever you say, Paul, I'm always in, dude. You switching from 4S to 6S on your Cinewhoops? I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. 3S to whatever Tony goes for next.
12S, yeah.
12S there.
All the voltage, yeah. We want very small current.
I mean, you probably get some good flight time on like a 12S, like 15-inch, something like that would be like.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, we've built some like really big quads in the past, like 27-inch props and stuff like that, and ran them on like 6 to 12 inch or 6 to 12 cells. It's really cool.
Speaking of day in the life of drone guys, it's what's crazy, Paul? BFD Systems. We had Max Tubman on the show, like one of our first episodes. BFD Systems. I work for them all the time. I'm their test pilot. I do a bunch of work. About 1 or 2 days a week I'm in there. Guess who moved in next door? Verge Aero. Verge Aero moved in.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. It's a small world, dude. You guys just moved to Pensacola, New Jersey, I guess, from Philadelphia. You probably still say you're from Philly, though, because it's cooler.
Yeah, we still have a Philly office. We're still at Pennovation, but yeah, like our warehouse, and like we do most of our technical work in Jersey now.
That's great, man. Congratulations. What is it like to move into a bigger office? Tell us about it.
I mean, it's been great. So like one of the things that really has slowed development down is the fact that we have to, whenever we have new firmware or new software to release to our customers, we have to thoroughly test it. So getting into this warehouse has been great because now we can just plug in all of our drones on the bench, and we can run them, every single drone, through a full hardware simulation at the same time. So that means that like our development cycles that we're going through are significantly faster than they've been in the past, just because we are able to do everything under a roof rather than having to go out and plug in a bunch of drones in a field and either do simulations there or fly them. So, and then like our pen offices, they're pretty small. So like we can't really have more than like 15, 20 drones at the same time. But now we can power up hundreds of drones at the same time, simulate everything, and really start developing features at a significantly faster pace than we've been able to do in the past. So that's been awesome.
Congratulations. Yeah, we have a little bit of a drone alley over there now. It's like lots of innovation, lots of drone manufacturing happen.
It kind of really makes me want to be out there. Like just being in the BFD office for a few hours, like the old one, like I was just like, this is awesome, inspiring, like seeing all these guys just get together and collaborate. And like me and John went out for 20 minutes. That's pretty much all the time we had to like film like a little promo for the Shendrone's Thick, which you're now flying the Sick on production. So it's pretty cool to see that come full circle. But like, just to be in that environment around those people that are all passionate about the same thing is awesome. Yeah. So like, I'm stoked for you guys to be there all in the same place. Like I want to be out there. I want to be hanging out. Like that's super cool.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So cool. There's no doubt that there's going to be some collaborations happening. I just want happy hours to start happening more often. COVID.
We've got to wait for the weather to warm up. We'll have some outdoor barbecues in that little courtyard area.
I would love to. Yeah, COVID makes it a little tough, but I think if we can solve huge drone problems, we could solve COVID problems with some beers.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sweet that you guys are co-located, but looking forward, like how do you run the show? Like what does the software look like that you're using to like, design these shows? And then, I mean, do you just sit down like a DJ and click go, or are you like, hitting the turntables and like calling some audibles in there? Like, I mean, that's what you are, right? Like a drone DJ at that point.
Yeah.
Like, what's that look like? What's that process look like when you're live, when you're you've got your 15-minute window to run the drone show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's two steps, right? And the software that we developed, we have one piece of software called the Designer, or we call it the Studio usually, and then another piece of software called the Hub. And the Studio's whole existence is to develop the show. So that was like enforcing that like 1 meter bubble around all of the drones. So like, say we get a client in, just generic, they want to throw their logo in the sky and then do a couple little other things. So when you start with the Studio, what you can do, which is it's like I wasn't joking when I said that you can create like a 200 drone show in like 30 minutes and go fly it. Like you can take in images of that company's logo. You just import it directly into the Studio. That gets turned into the points that the drones need to know how to fly. And then it's a lot like editing a video in like Premiere. So like we have timelines. So all of the timelines you say, okay, from 0 seconds to 20 seconds, I want a launch event. and then the drones will launch during that phase. And then from 20 seconds to 40 seconds, I want you to join the logo, and they go to fly to the logo. And then we'll do like, once they join the logo, we can track that logo and we can animate it. So like you saw, John, with like the Thank You Heroes thing, like we had the Philly Love statue. We did that. And we spun it 360 degrees. Yeah. So for like a logo, you go in there and you animate that logo. And then during that phase of the show, it would track the logo spinning. And then at the end, one of the coolest parts that's like really underappreciated, especially by us at this point, is you just tell them to return to home and they come back, which it sounds like nothing,
deconflicted, but return to home.
It's all deconflicted. They all come back home and land in exactly the same spot that they started. So that means that like once they land, you query their healths again. And as long as they have enough battery to fly, you can fly another show right away. Like no waiting.
Interesting.
You don't have to upload anything ever again. So yeah, so that's the design, or that's the studio. And then what ends up happening is you render the show out. That enforces the deconflicted paths and everything. And that all gets boiled down to a single file. And that file then gets imported into the hub. And the hub essentially is just your interface to the whole fleet. So as you start plugging batteries in, you get like 100 tiles in the hub that shows you all of the drones, what their status is. Are they healthy? What their GPS error is? Do they have any sensor failures? Do they need to be recalibrated and so forth? Once you get them all healthy, you upload the show. That takes like 5-10 minutes. And then you just put them in predetermined spots on the launch pad. And what they do, every single one of the drones in the fleet, so say we have 100 drones that's doing the show, every single one of those 100 drones knows how to fly every single one of the other drones' paths. And the benefit of that is it doesn't matter where you place them. As long as they get placed in one of the starting locations, they know which part of the show that they belong to and how to fly it. So
you don't have to you don't have to put drone 32 in spot 32.
No,
you put drone 12 in spot 32 and it becomes 32.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's like really powerful. Now, I don't think many others are doing that right now. I think the whole industry will evolve to that at some point because it's just so beneficial. Because then you could have sideline drones. You just upload
so that's
the
why
show to the other ones. Yeah, exactly.
When
and you don't have to
health check. You just yeet, put another one in. Doesn't matter which one it is. It just goes.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So say like, you have 100 drones. Like, it's usually me, at least one or two other people. It takes like, 15 minutes to lay out 100 drones. You check their healths, you make sure that they're in the right starting location, and then you just press go. And they go and fly it.
It's insane.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I had a question about the animation. So between, you mentioned like Premiere Pro. Okay, so that to me, I'm like, all right, I can handle this. But the animations that you do when you spin something, is that like an effect you can put on? You can just like do a spin 360, and then in between two graphics, the drone's changing position. That's an effect that looked really cool because you're kind of like, ooh, something's changing, and then you're like, ooh, what's it going to turn into? Oh, it's a dick butt. Like, wow.
Yeah,
but like
exactly. Gotcha.
Can you define that duration of like the morph, because that's a point of where things can really happen special, right?
Yeah, you could definitely do a lot with that, especially if you do like light chases and sweeps through it. The point that we try to make during the transitions from one shape to another is to obfuscate what the next shape is going to look like. So it could be sparkles, it could just be like sweeps through or whatever. And in the studio, what you do is you place down a block that says join shape number 2 or whatever. And you define the length of time, and like everything is within the bounds of the current FAA regulations, which is like 14 miles per hour, something like that. Mm-hmm. So like they'll be clamped to 14 miles per hour, no matter how short you make that join. But you place that in, it tells you about how long it's going to take for the drones to go from shape 1 to shape 2. And then you can put different lighting effects on them, whether it's like sweeps through or just sparkles, or you can even just keep them whatever the color is of the next shape, and you can see it morph and form into the final shape as they approach their end locations.
Sounds almost too easy, doesn't it, Paul? It sounds like it's like, it's like
it's really easy. It's really fun.
Like you could just buy it, buy a vertically integrated product off the shelf and have a turnkey solution for running a drone show.
That's the dream.
I love it.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. Gosh, man, I feel like, we're starting to bump up against the end of our time here. Like, I feel like there's so much more that we could do, so much more that we could discuss. I wonder if we could like have a show going whilst we do a podcast together. I think something like that would be possible in the future.
Yeah, so like as I was alluding to, like our whole mission is to make this approachable to as many people as possible. And the X1 drone, although you can buy it, it's pretty expensive. And our whole mission is to, make this cheap and easy to use, so anybody can go out and get the waiver and go fly drone shows. So we haven't really talked about this publicly anywhere, but we are currently working on a cheaper, smaller drone that we want to release to the public. And we expect to get this done sometime this year. So when that happens,
for anybody listening,
2021. Yeah,
this sounds like another
so
Good
when that
Flight
happens,
exclusive, Paul. Like another one.
I think so.
Oh,
another
first
one.
It was trash talking somebody on episode 1. Now it's releasing new products. Let's go.
Yeah, so we'll have this thing ready. Like it's looking like it's going to be a really cool product. It's going to be like we're hoping to keep the same brightness, which our drones are really bright right now. So we're going to try and maintain the same level of brightness, so you can interchange or intermix X1 drones with the next version of the drone. But yeah, once we have that prototype fleet like ready to go and we're starting to test it, I mean, there's so many things that we can do with it. We were talking about like, like even like throwing FPV drones through the fleet while they're flying. Maybe we can do like a morphing, like changing FPV racetrack, like so you're flying through the fleet actively, and it's like a Mario Kart,
That sounds amazing.
Things like
just
that.
flying
but
gates.
yeah, it would. Yeah, just flying gates.
Make like a hyperspace effect, like Star Wars, where like they're all moving past and like you like fly through. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
DRL.
So it really hasn't been done.
DRL.
Yeah, exactly.
We should definitely partner,
So,
especially with you guys being East Coast and DRL being East Coast. That should definitely be like an open air stadium drone race plus drone light show plus fireworks plus a morphic drone course.
Yeah,
it'd be the coolest thing ever.
I can only get so erect.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be releasing that stuff sometime this year. We'll keep in touch, but when that happens,
yes, sir.
You could definitely see something coming of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, dang. Tony, is there anything else you want to plug? What's your guys' Instagram, and where can people follow along with you guys as you on your journey?
Right. So, I mean, we're in all the normal places. Instagram and Twitter are both Verge Aero, VRGEAERO, not arrow like a bow and arrow. It's arrow like aerospace.
It'll also be a link in the description.
Yeah. And then, like, I mean, I'm not really that active on social media, but Tony Samaritano, I'm everywhere. Actually, I just got on, what is that called? Clubhouse.
TikTok. Oh,
that seems like, I'm not young enough for that.
Yeah, Clubhouse. Clubhouse seems to be like an interesting place. And I don't think there's any other drone people on Clubhouse. So
no, there isn't. I was looking around, and like, there's like no Clubhouse for like. It would just be cool to just start something on there and just bullshit about drone stuff.
The Good Flight Clubhouse.
Like,
I've got an invite, but I don't have an iOS device new.
Yeah, I know.
I gotta go like buy an iPad to get on Clubhouse. I'm like, is that worth the $300 or whatever? That's bad. I think it probably is, based on the number of times people are like, you should be on Clubhouse. I'm like, well.
Just another thing for Paul to do. Paul, where's
Verge.aero on Clubhouse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and our website is just verge.aero. Same thing. AERO.AERO. I mean, we publish stuff semi-regularly. We definitely don't publish all the things that we've done, but because we're usually developing tech or something. But you can keep tabs there, and always reach out to us, and just Tony at vergeaero.com.
especially if you need a light show.
Yeah, the best light
Especially
show
if you need a light
company
show.
in the country, man. I mean, this is the real deal. So, very informative interview. I appreciate you coming on, and just kind of a different perspective on drones and the technology and the creative ways on how we can use them to create different good flights. Paul, what are some other links? And let's plug ourselves for a little bit, because last time I checked, we only had like 16 5-star reviews on podcast app. We got to get that up a little bit, I think, because
yeah, I mean, you guys want to hear more good flights, more good stories, and if you don't take the 30 seconds to go leave a review on Apple Podcasts, no one's going to find us, and we won't get to have great conversations like we just had with Tony. So please spend the next 4 sips of your coffee and leave a review on Apple Podcasts after you have successfully made it to your destination, because you're probably driving right now. Let's be real.
Yeah, but all that stuff does definitely go a long way. Follow me on Instagram, Johnny Drones on Instagram. That's JONNY_drones.
_ FPV. Wait, no.
The other guy. That's the other guy. But he's cool too. We should maybe get him on the show. Who knows? Yeah. If you don't
go hit him up.
If you don't like us on, if you don't rate us on Apple Podcasts, we might never hear from anybody else. So that's not a threat. That's just an ask. If you guys enjoy the show, come on in and rate us on Apple Podcasts, as well as keep smashing that like button on YouTube. Right, Paul?
But thank you, everybody, for coming and listening to this episode. I am extremely excited about this chat with Tony. I think we've gotten into some avenues that I didn't even anticipate getting into, to the point where we got to learn a whole lot about what's out there, what good flights are happening around the world, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, United States. But we want to thank you guys for coming along with us and hanging out, and keep flying the good flight.
Cut! We're going again.